Hi everyone! So in this module, we're going to take a look at Season 3, Episode 17 of The Simpsons, Homer at Bat. Now, if you haven't seen the episode yet, this is a great time to pause the video and go watch it. So in this episode, Homer's company begins a softball team, and they actually end up doing really well to the point that they make it to the championship game. At that point, their manager, Mr. Burns, decides to make $1 million bet on the outcome of the game. And not willing to leave it up to his workers to win, he decides to hire a bunch of professional baseball players to play instead. Through a series of ridiculous events, all of the professional players except for one are unable to play in the championship game. And Homer ends up winning the game for his team, but only because he gets hit in the head by the ball. Now, baseball is hugely important in the US. It's one of the most popular sports in the country, and most kids end up playing it when they're young, first through community teams and then later on in school teams. The boys would play baseball and the girls would play softball. So you might be wondering, what exactly is the difference? So baseballs are smaller, harder, and they're pitched overhand. While softballs tend to be larger, they're a little bit softer, though they still really hurt if you get hit by one, and they're pitched underhand. Now, I'm sure you all know that professional baseball players make a ton of money. Like, they make millions of dollars a year, even if they're just a so-so player. Take a look at this chart that shows what the average professional athlete is paid in the US. Now, keep in mind, this chart shows how much the average male athlete is paid in the US. Female athletes make considerably less. Now, you probably didn't know this, but there's actually a professional softball league in the US. Now, while the professional baseball players will make millions of dollars a year, even if they're not that good, the professional softball players make between $5,000 and $6,000 a year on average. Now, even though baseball is way more popular than softball in terms of viewership and fans, companies and community centers will form softball teams, not baseball teams. And fun fact, literally last Sunday, my church announced that there are now sign-up sheets for the co-ed slow-pitch softball team. Now, I'm not going to sign up because I'm terrible at softball, and also I'm really scared of things being thrown at me. But softball teams are a great way to meet new people and get involved in your community or company. Now, in the episode, drinking played a huge part in the game, so much so that the players had to drink continuously throughout. While some softball teams might play this way, most of them leave the drinking for after the game. In fact, a lot of people associate adult softball leagues with drinking. So much so that you'll see the phrase, "My drinking team has a softball problem," printed on t-shirts and coffee mugs. And if you find yourself on a community or company softball team, you might actually get a trophy that is fashioned out of a beer can. In this episode, Mr. Burns bets $1 million on the championship game, and while most people don't bet as much as he does, sports betting is still wildly popular in the US, even though it's technically illegal in most states. In fact, until a Supreme Court ruling in 2018, the only place that you could legally bet on sports in the US was in the state of Nevada. Since the Supreme Court ruling, a lot of lawmakers have been introducing new bills to allow sports betting in their own constituencies. Take a look at this graphic from ESPN. So this shows what states have legalized sports betting, which ones have introduced new laws, and which ones haven't changed. Of course, every state had people betting on sporting events long before this court case was ever decided, but usually it was in office betting pools or at betting pools in local bars or restaurants. In fact, the first time I ever placed a bet on a Super Bowl game, it was through a local restaurant's betting pool. I was about 13 or 14 years old, and I had placed a $5 bet and won $40. And I never won again after that. I am terrible at gambling. But if betting on sporting events is something that you think would be fun, you have a lot of options. And with the Supreme Court case, a lot more options are probably going to be coming to you locally soon.